Former Sacramento Kings head coach Mike Brown is an NBA championship winning head coach.
You are Locked On Kings, your daily Sacramento Kings podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in. I am James Hammer, Kings Insider for ESPN 1320, the Kings Beat, and host of Locked On Kings. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. The biggest stage in world soccer is here. Let there be goals on FanDuel. Visit FanDuel.com to get started now. All right, busy show. The Knicks finish off the Spurs. We're going to talk about that in Block 1. Mike Brown wins a championship ring. That's awesome. The finals are over. So what's next? We're going to discuss that in Block 2. What's next for the Sacramento Kings? The final block, let the chaos begin, because everything is about to get fired up, at least hopefully. And if it's not, then it could be a really, really long summer. All right. What could have been. That's what the NBA Finals felt like on Saturday night. Mike Brown and his New York Knicks dispatched the upstart Spurs to win their first title since the 1972-1973 season. In the span of 3 years, Mike Brown overcame two of the biggest, the NBA's worst streaks known. Number one, the Sacramento Kings had a 16-season playoff drought. Mike Brown snapped that. Secondly, the Knicks had a 53-year title drought. Mike Brown snapped that. What does this mean for Mike Brown? I got to be honest with you. He needs a couple more seasons, substantial seasons of 50-plus win basketball, but he set himself up as a potential Hall of Famer. And actually, I think that there's a very clear pathway for him to make the Hall of Fame. He doesn't need to win a bunch of championship rings with the Knicks, although that's on the table. He could win, 1, 2, 3. We'll see. So that's a possibility. But he's 507 and 333 in his regular season win-loss record for his career. That puts him 40th place all-time for wins. His 604 win percentage puts him 25th all-time. At 56, he has plenty of time to add to the win total. But it should also be noted that Mike Brown now has 5 championship rings. He has one as an assistant with the Spurs back in the early 2000s. He also has 3 with the Golden State Warriors as an assistant coach. And then, of course, he now has one as a head coach. And that one as a head coach puts him in elite company. That 604 win percentage is crazy. But look, this is a moment. This is a moment where Mike Brown goes from being one of those coaches you talk about that's kind of a retread, that bounces around, that, gets a bunch of wins, but at some point he never wins the title. Well, that's over now. I think even for Mike Brown for a long time, it just hung over his head that he was LeBron James's first head coach. So a lot of his wins were because LeBron is just so great. And a lot of people ignored the fact that those Cavs teams didn't have a lot of talent at all. LeBron James was the best player. And then for many of the seasons, they didn't really even have a second best player. I mean, I think one season Mo Williams was their second best player. That's just not a championship built team. But it had championship expectations because LeBron was there. He had the fallout with the Lakers after a little over a season and Kobe Bryant. He went back to the Cavs and it didn't go so well in the second time. And when LeBron decided to go back, they decided to part ways. Then he went and built his resume. And to be honest, he went back to like a master's class working with Steve Kerr with the Golden State Warriors. And good on Mike Brown, to figure out a way to recover, to get back in the game as a head coach with the Kings, which again, nobody usually goes to the Kings and then goes on to bigger and better things. Mike Malone is the other coach that's done that. Of course, he also won a ring after, but it took a long time with the Denver Nuggets for Michael Malone to get his chip. But this is a really substantial moment for Mike Brown and his family. His grandson was with him making the rounds on the stage as the Larry O'Brien trophy was passed around. He was also there during media sessions. Look, Mike has proven to be an exceptional head coach in every stop that he's been in. except for maybe the second time in Cleveland. And I think that once you get a ring, it just changes the way that you're thought of. A lot of coaches in the league have a championship ring, and the Mike Budenholzers of the world or Doc Rivers, and you always think about their championship run and what that means. And now Mike Brown finally has that for himself. So super excited for Mike. And, again, what an incredible performance by Jalen Brunson. What an incredible performance by the New York Knicks. Like, I think a lot of people thought that series was going to go 6 or 7. I know a lot of people thought that the Spurs were going to win quick, but that's just not what happened. This was a dominant performance. Sure, they fell behind multiple times, but they also, Mike pulled the right strings the entire series. Absolutely incredible. The 29-point comeback was incredible. The win in San Antonio against, with a crowd going bonkers, absolutely spectacular. So on the flip side, De'Aaron Fox had a brutal 5-game stretch for the Spurs, and actually, it was a little bit more than that. I feel bad a little bit here because De'Aaron Fox, former Kings point guard for 6, 7.5 years, he ended up becoming almost like a punchline following the Spurs Game 4 meltdown, and he never looked like himself. Just really, really unfortunate. I thought, again, you can say that he really didn't have that much playoff experience coming into this, just the 7 games from the 2022-23 season and a couple of play-in games in Sacramento throughout his entire career. That's all he really had. But this was, he got 21 games under his belt in this offseason. The Spurs played a ton of games, and unfortunately, he was just never able to really build that momentum. I think there's something, systemically wrong with De'Aaron Fox playing alongside other point guards, and the Spurs have a couple of them that he played alongside, and it did not work. He looked out of sorts. He looked like he was just there to set up other players. But I think they took the ball out of his hands pretty quick. And to be honest, he just wasn't able to be a factor in that series. And again, those Game 4 gaffes, it'll stand out. It'll be one of the things that really, again, sort of galvanizes everything for that series is what happened in the waning moments where Fox decided to go for a pretty soft layup as opposed to either dunking it or running away from OG Anunoby. And OG Anunoby gets to block. The Knicks hit the game winner, and everything, it finishes up the way it did. So really, really tough. Again, the fact that Fox is about to begin a 4-year, $222 million extension only puts the spotlight on him brighter. And, look, at 28 years old, he's got a lot of basketball left in him. But, he just looked out of sorts, uncharacteristic, poor decisions, uncharacteristic turnovers. Really, really a tough look for a player who, again, I watched every single game, covered every single game he ever played here in Sacramento, and just really most of what we saw was very, very unexpected. Again, he didn't look like the clutch player of the year, which he won here in Sacramento, the closer that we saw in Sacramento, and that's just really tough. All right, it's crazy, but the 2025-26 season is officially over. What comes next? We'll discuss after these messages. The biggest stage in world soccer is here, and every match feels like it has a potential for a memorable moment. One goal can completely change the energy of a game, shift momentum, and alter the outcome in an instant. That's what makes tournament soccer so exciting from the opening whistle to the final kick. Now, FanDuel is giving fans another reason to stay locked in every match with every goal pays. Bet on a match and get bonus bets for every goal scored in that match. More goals means more bonus bets. All you have to do is turn on your token. What I love about watching these giant tournaments in soccer is just how the unexpected happens. It's absolutely spectacular to sit and watch a game that goes back and forth. Just saw incredible soccer all day long. Ahmad coming up with just an incredible goal for Ivory Coast to win. Absolutely spectacular. That's what I love about watching these big tournaments. Also, Team USA goes out there and wins 4-1. Hey, that's 5 goals. That means 5 bonus bets on FanDuel. Absolutely crazy. So from opening whistle to the final kick, let there be goals on FanDuel. Visit FanDuel.com to get started now. Today's episode is also brought to you by Rugiet. Throughout the NHL season, every shift matters, every moment is intense, and everything comes down to execution when the pressure is at its highest. And just like athletes must be ready to perform when the puck drops, a lot of guys want the same sense of readiness and confidence in their own lives too. That's where Rugiet comes in. Rugiet offers modern, performance-focused treatments designed to help you be ready when it matters. Their top option, Rugia Ready, is a fast-acting, clinically formulated treatment that comes in a single mint that dissolves under your tongue. It's designed for convenience with fast absorption and effects that can begin in about 15 minutes and last up to 36 hours. They also have Go Long, which is formulated to support both performance and control for longer lasting needs. It's all about helping guys feel prepared, confident, and in control. In the playoffs, regardless, readiness isn't optional. It's everything. And for a lot of guys, that idea of being ready at the right moment carries over into everyday life too. That's exactly what Rugiet is built for. I think most guys just want something that fits into their life without a lot of hassle. The idea of a small mint that dissolves and gets to work quickly makes it feel way more straightforward. It's simple and convenient. Head to Rugiet.com/lockedonnhl and get 15% off your ED treatment. That's RUGIET.com/lockedonnhl for 15% off. Rugiet, performance medicine for men. All right, welcome back in. Locked On Kings is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network. Thanks for making us your first listen of the day. If you never miss an episode, it's time to make it official. Join the Locked On Everydayer Club and get ad-free audio, access to our members-only Discord, and more, all built for our most loyal fans. Go to lockedonkings.supercast.com. All right, the NBA season is over. And now the real work begins, especially for a team like the Kings that have a very busy planned offseason, or at least they hope to have a very busy planned offseason. The Kings, Scott Perry specifically, he's going to try to reinvent the roster on the fly. And, we've heard this a million times that, Vivek Ranadive doesn't want to have a full rebuild. Call it whatever you want. The Kings would love to move on from 3 or 4 of their veteran players and start with a different group of veteran players to go with the young players that they're already building around and the young player they're going to take with the number 7 overall pick. But we got a lot of other stuff happening before that. So this is the final week for most prospect workouts. There's always a chance that 1 or 2 individuals will quietly come through Sacramento early in the week of the draft. But for the most part, this week is going to be it. I can't even remember back that the Kings had brought in CJ McCollum for 2 workouts during the 2013 NBA draft, and he thought he was coming to Sacramento. Then they brought him in for a secret workout on the Monday before the NBA draft, and they still didn't draft him. They selected Ben McLemore, and the rest is, as we say, history. We also we have 6 prospects coming through on Monday morning, including Baba Miller, who put it out on his Instagram story that he was in Sacramento this weekend. He missed a workout earlier with the Kings due to illness. I believe he was in Sacramento and just couldn't go. He got sick. So it's good to see him make it back. This week, there are also rumors that both Keaton Wagler and Darius Akov Jr. could be dropping by Sacramento. Whether that happens or not, we'll see. Nothing has been confirmed by the team. There's also a possibility that they won't announce their arrivals in Sac or invite the media to attend, whether, again, the workout or, post workout media sessions. That isn't all that uncommon. It's very common, to be honest with you, for a team to open the doors for, second round picks. And if they start having more competitive workouts with like players in the teens, then you might get to see more of that. But when it comes to the top tier guys, very seldom do you see, especially in the modern, the last 5 or 6 years, maybe a little longer than that, a lot of interview footage and stuff when players actually work out that are, slated to go, you know, 3 through 10 in the draft. It just doesn't really happen. So that's going to be sort of what we see throughout this week. It also, with the finals being over, it opens the door for a few other items. So number one, trades can happen. It isn't against NBA rules to make trades during the finals, but it's kind of frowned upon. The league wants all the eyes on the finals themselves because it's their main showcase. And again, I think it was a tremendous finals, even though it only lasted 5 games. It still showcased what's coming next. What's coming next is a long, long career for Victor Wembanyama dominating our televisions in June. That's what's about to happen. So, but also number two, there's now a window open where teams can negotiate with their own free agents. Basically, the end of the finals until, I think it's up until right before we get to, when they open free agency, which is now on, I believe, June 30th. It used to be July 1st. Now it's June 30th. And of course, you can't sign anybody until July 6th officially anyways. But this is that moment where, you can start negotiating with your own free agents. We saw it a few years ago when it came to Harrison Barnes. The Kings actually had negotiations with him. And during a specific window, and then they quieted those negotiations. They went around, checked a couple other, kicked the tires on a couple other players, and then came back to Harrison Barnes and signed him to a 3-year deal. This year, the Kings have a couple of players at a minimum that would not be shocking to see them return. Precious Achiuwa and Daquan Plowden. Plowden is likely looking at a league minimum deal, but a standard roster spot after spending last season on a 2-way contract. Achiuwa, who it does look like Precious got married early in June, which is awesome for Precious and his new bride. He was clear that he would like to return to Sacramento, but the Kings salary cap situation is a little up in the air. So everything from the Kings side said they would like to have him back. Everything I've heard, again, looking across the table at a couple of people and asking them very specifically about Precious, they'd love to have him back. But they're currently projected to be a first or second apron team. So that could be very difficult until they start to clear space. Again, I don't think Precious Achiuwa is going to break the bank for the Kings. I would not be surprised, though, to see him sign like a biannual exception deal, 2-year, $10 million, 2-year, $11 million total. Maybe he cost a little bit more than that because he did have a very good finish to the season. But I also think a lot of, teams look at it and say, okay, he was playing on a team that won 22 games. So we're not going to put a ton of stock into what we saw in the last couple of weeks of the season. So both of these players had breakout years in Sacramento. Achiuwa averaged 10.1 points, 6.7 rebounds over 73 games. He started 57 games for the Kings, which is crazy, mainly due to injury, but it would really be nice to have him back. His versatility, especially as a defender, made a difference on the Kings that struggled with injuries all year long. His ability to play the 4 and the 5 and maybe even the 3 for some short stints, because he's just big enough and quick enough to stay in front of a lot of people that you wouldn't expect him to do, does make him pretty intriguing. Plowden, he averaged 10.8 points over 32 games on his 2-way contract. He shot 35.2% over his from 3 over his final 20 games, which I think is a better indicator of who he is as a shooter. That's who he has been at the G League level and other levels. So I think once he got consistent playing time, he settled in. He was a nice 3-and-D player, and I would not be surprised if he was back with the Kings on a regular roster spot. Players can't officially sign again until July 6th when the moratorium lifts, but we should have some clarity on these guys relatively soon. You can sort of add Russell Westbrook to that mix as well, but I think there's a good chance the Kings wait and see. They wait for the dust to settle and see what both the draft and trade market actually does for them when it comes to the point guard position before they commit to Westbrook. And it's possible he's back. It's also possible that they draft a point guard at number 7 and they swing a big deal for a point guard. And next thing you know, they don't need to bring Russell Westbrook back. I'd also remind people that he did not sign until all the way up until almost the end of training camp and the end of preseason this last year, which wasn't, a great thing because while he was in good shape, he wasn't in basketball shape and he hadn't really played with anybody. So a little rusty to start the season, although he did have a good year in Sacramento. All right, we're going to step aside one more time. When we come back, we'll talk about the heavy lifting facing Scott Perry and when we might know the fate of some of the veterans on this squad. It's going to be a little crazy.
I carry a lot of responsibility in my household. If something happened to me, there would be serious consequences. We have a mortgage, we got tuition, we got everyday bills. Those aren't going anywhere if something happens to me. And I know that's an overwhelming feeling, but I'm taking steps to protect my family by getting life insurance through Ethos. Ethos makes getting life insurance fast, easy, and 100% online. You can get a quote in seconds, apply in minutes, and get same-day coverage. There's no medical exam. You just answer a few simple health questions. You can get up to $3 million in coverage. Some policies are as low as $30 a month. And as of March 2025, Business Insider named Ethos the #1 no medical exam instant life insurance provider. Ethos has 4.8 out of 5 stars on Trustpilot with over 3,000 reviews. Protect your family with life insurance from Ethos now by going to ethos.com/LockedOnNBA. In as little as 10 minutes, you can get your free quote and up to $3 million in coverage at ethos.com/LockedOnNBA. That's ethos.com/LockedOnNBA. Ethos.com/LockedOnNBA. Application times and rates may vary.
All right. So I think one of the things I want to point out is that nothing is certain in Sacramento. We just talked about some guys that might come back on free agent deals. The Kings would like to have both Precious Achiuwa and Daquan Plottin back. Whether that happens or not is really going to depend on, Plottin's probably a little easier because he's probably looking at a league minimum deal where, again, Precious Achiuwa is going to cost a little bit. And where the Kings are at salary-wise is not good. They are a team that projects as a first or second apron team. So Scott Perry's already told us very specifically he has no interest in paying the luxury tax for a team that is where the Kings are at in their build. And so he's going to have to figure out a way to take a chainsaw to this roster or this salary cap situation and maybe figure things out. So the biggest problem is they have a group of players, a group of veteran players that are eating up the majority of the team salary cap. So we've heard rumors on the potential interest in Domantas Sabonis from both the Raptors and the Hornets. The Kings would like to figure this one out before draft night in case they acquire draft capital, especially with Charlotte holding picks number 14 and 18 and the Raptors holding pick number 19. It's possible that Sabonis sticks around Sacramento, but Perry needs to shave salary and development. The development of both Max Reynaud and Dylan Cardwell might open the door for Sabonis' exit. Again, we'll have to wait and see because it's a big contract. I think it's $46 million this year and then one more year at roughly $48 million. So it's possible that, the Kings are going to have a bunch of centers this season. But it's also possible because there has been plenty of smoke with regards to Sabonis that they're able to find him a new home relatively quick. That brings us to Zach LaVine. Zach has until June 29th to either pick up his $49 million option or void the final year of his deal and become an unrestricted free agent. I think that would be crazy to go out there and to decline that $49 million option. But I think there still is a chance that he opts out if the Kings and his agent and some other team work out a sign and trade deal. Again, I here's kind of the things that will happen with him. If he opts in, the Kings can either keep Zach LaVine. They can try to trade Zach LaVine and his $49 million expiring deal, or they can try to work on a buyout. And maybe that's something that appeals to Zach so he can get on to his next stop way quicker. Maybe he can go into free agency. Maybe there's a team out there with 20 or 30 million bucks, or maybe there's a team out there with a mid-level exception and he's able to go into that, but also with, I don't know, 40 or 49 million from the Kings. So then he'd make more money. So I think we're gonna have to wait and see. But I think again, there's a good chance if he does opt out, it's because the Kings and his agent and some other team have worked out some sort of three-way trade where the Kings would sign him, or not a three-way trade, a sign-in trade where the Kings would sign him and then trade him to another team. There's not a world in which Zach LaVine stays in Sacramento on a new contract, at least not that I know of. And I've had conversations on that very specifically. And I think Zach LaVine has been told that himself. Like they have told him and been honest and upfront with him that if he does opt into that 49 million, all bets are off. Whatever happens to him this year happens to him. If he starts, that's one thing. If he comes off the bench, if he plays sparingly, all of those are options. It's really going to be dictated by what else happens to the Kings and their roster this offseason. And again, he's not part of a future plan here in Sacramento. And that's not being like it's not being like horrible to Zach LaVine. It's just being honest. That's something that again I've been told has been relayed to Zach LaVine that again the Kings aren't looking to extend him and his future, beyond this season is likely elsewhere. And that's just the way it goes. The Kings also have to make a decision on DeMar DeRozan. Um, he's entering the final year of his contract that pays him roughly 26 million this year, but only 10 million of that's guaranteed. We've talked about this a couple of times. The Kings have until January 10th to make an official decision on DeMar DeRozan, which is not great for DeMar because he could wait until halfway through the season and then get waived and only make whatever his salary is at that point. The Kings can also waive him like now and use a stretch provision and basically take that $10 million and break it into 3 years at 3.33 million and really save a ton. And that might be the mechanism that gets them below the luxury tax. But they probably still need more work on top of that. That's why I'm going to tie all of these together. So Sabonis and LaVine, if the Kings can move Sabonis, but say take back 36 million as opposed to the 46 million, that's $10 million in salary cap space that they saved. If they can move Zach LaVine and if they can get a sign and trade done and say he signs a 3-year, $90 million contract somewhere and the Kings bring back 25 million, that would roughly save 24 million off that $49 million mark. And again, I bring these up because if you can move these pieces around, I think it gives you an option to trade DeMar DeRozan and actually get maybe not a bunch of value out of him, but at least a net neutral deal where he can go play somewhere that he wants to, and you might be able to take back a solid player. It could also work out where you're using him as part of a 3-team deal or something, and he could go somewhere and then they could ship players to another team, and then you can add a player to that deal. And next thing you know, DeMar DeRozan's playing where he wants to be, but just at a lower rate. I think there's also possibility that there's a team out there that's over the luxury tax, way over the luxury tax, or over an apron, and you could trade DeMar DeRozan and his contract at 26 million for another player that makes 20, 25 million. And then that team could waive him and they could do the same thing where they could, cut his salary down to 10 million, stretch provision him. And all of a sudden they could save a bunch of money. And maybe in that scenario, maybe you're able to get something back in return. So I think there are a lot of things that could happen, but a lot of it's predicated on whether you need to use his salary and that whole stretch provision and cutting it down to 3 million to get underneath the luxury tax, or if you've already moved on from Sabonis or LaVine and saved money in that way. So a little bit of a complexity here when it comes to the way that the Kings are going to handle themselves. I'm going to bring in a salary cap expert later in the week, and we'll have a lot more of discussions on this because once the draft hits, it's going to be rapid fire. We're going to fly right into what's next, and then what's after that, and what's after that, and it's going to be a little crazy. So I just want to set up a lot of this, and we'll have a salary cap expert here to go through some of that stuff, just to supplement what I do with salary cap stuff. Also, lastly, again, when we get to sort of the end of what's going to happen here, I think Malik Monk and his remaining 2 years could also be on the move as well. Just being completely honest, Perry is going to try to remake the roster in his own image. If that includes Monk, so be it. If Perry can find a taker without having to take back a bunch of long-term deals, or if Monk can be, again, wrapped up into a much bigger trade, he could be on the move. And so there's a chance that Monk's salary could be used, to go land you somebody big, maybe even, part of a Ja Morant trade if the Kings are still interested in something like that. Just keep in mind that it's not personal, that, Malik still has a lot of fans here in Sacramento. But his contract is pushing out another 2 years. Same with Domantas Sabonis, 2 more years. And the Kings are trying to speed up whatever they're calling this build out that they're trying to do. All right. Yeah, it's the Wild West in Sacramento. Everything could happen. Absolutely nothing could happen. But the motivation for change is real from the people that I talk to inside. All right. It's going to be a busy week here on Locked On Kings. We have a special guest scheduled for Monday night / Tuesday mornings pod. We also have a guest scheduled for Wednesday and for Wednesday nights and Thursday night show. So it's going to be a week packed with some guests that we'll talk salary cap. We'll talk NBA draft. And we also have like a big birthday for Locked On. So maybe one of the shows will involve a guest that for our big 10-year birthday celebration. All right. Thanks for tuning in. Make sure to subscribe and follow Locked On Kings so you get all of our latest episodes. Hit the notification button so it tells you get a ding every single time we go live. And jump in the chat. It's been interesting lately. I don't mean to be controversial when it comes to me talking about players with domestic violence stuff, but there's a lot of opinions out there, and mine's just one of them. And if you don't like my opinion, that's okay. I'm more than fine with that. I'm very comfortable with my stance on where I sit with that conversation. So lastly, if you never miss an episode, the Everydayer Club is built for you. Get Locked On Kings ad-free plus members-only Discord access and more. Head to lockedonkings.supercast to supercast.com to join the club. For those of you on video, we send you to the first ever 24/7 National NBA YouTube channel. On audio, make sure to make your second listen of the day NBA Game Night on Locked On NBA. Hey, see you tomorrow.